Yo, what's up, YouTube? How are y'all doing? It's Cupid here, back for the first time in quite some time, I've got to say. I haven't uploaded a YouTube video in a couple of months. Luckily, things have kind of calmed down in the Jinhee situation, and they calmed down enough for me to run my Pokemon Draft League. I haven't really gotten into the the swing of streaming normally yet, but, that will be coming soon, I promise. Um, but for now, I'm getting back there. I'm getting back. So, what is this, you may ask? Well, this is the recap of Cupid League Season 2, the draft. This is exactly how the teams were drafted, and there are no grace period changes added to the teams. I will just be going through and I will be grading teams and giving a quick suggestion to each of the players who are in it, and if they want to listen, they are free to do so. Um, Now, this is a lower tier draft, which is why things like Keldeo are 20 points, because, well, I wanted to lower the overall power level, and then Gen 9 came out, and I was like, well, this is awkward. I don't know what to do with all of these Gen 9 Pokemon. I'll have to find somewhere to put them. And then I did that. So, at this point, what we have gone and done is we have run through the draft. Everyone has to had picked 9 to 12 Pokemon. That's the range of Pokemon you were allowed to pick. And this time, they are only given 110 points. Last season, it was 112. And the power level was higher, so everything is a little bit more, tight this time. We'll say. So, let's just get straight into the team reviews. First up, we have Kitsune Noble's team, the 4X Weaklings. By the way, if you don't follow Kitsune Noble on Twitch, same username there. Go ahead and follow Kitsune Noble. She's lovely. So the 4X Weaklings, here we go. You know, the logo is a weakness policy trainer card in Pokemon TCG. Pretty good. Alright, so the draft is Keldeo, Gallade, Dracozolt, Steelix Mega, Alomomola, Shaman, Honchkrow, Sigilyph, and Shuckle. Now, there are a couple of major cores that aren't exactly filled out here. I do not see a Fairy-type Pokemon, which is pretty important, but, you know, in a low-tier draft like this, cores, I wouldn't say are as important. There's a fantastic Stealth Rocker in Steelix Mega. It's very bulky. It will get up rocks pretty much every time. And it can come in and take physical hits. There's also Shuckle, and, you know, Shuckle is the best defensive Pokemon in the game. Not in the fashion of, you know, stalling or anything, but in the fashion of it just has the highest average defense stat. And it can put up rocks and it can put up webs, so there will probably be a lot of that to pair with the Gallade, which now has the ability Sharpness, which gives cutting moves an additional 50% power boost, and the Dracozolt, which still has Volt Beak, as well as even maybe the Keldeo to do damage on the special attacking side of things. Beyond that, you have two fantastic physical walls, an all-arounder in Shaman, and Sigilyph, which can be quite good, surprisingly. Magikarp, you can run bulky. It's not that bulky, but you can, and you can do things like Defog. You could also do Magikarp Life Orb to do a bunch of damage. And then Honchkrow is a fantastic Sucker Punch Pokemon with Moxie. Overall, this draft is pretty good. You've got a good balance of offense and defense. At least I like this amount of balance in the offense and defense. And aside from the missing, you know, fire type and the missing fairy type, which are two pretty important things, I'd say you did pretty good with this draft. I'm going to go ahead and give this an 8 out of 10. Good job, Kitsune. I would recommend looking into a fire type that you could slot onto your team, or a fairy, and maybe getting rid of Sigilyph. The reason I would suggest getting rid of Sigilyph is because, well, sure, it's you, it's your main defogger. Sorry, I have a bit of a cough. everybody. I'm sorry. It's your main defogger, as you don't really want to run Honchkrow defog, but you can, I guess. But you also already have a flying dark type and a fighting psychic. So now you're doubling up on flying and psychic, which is not the best. So that's why I would make the suggestion I have made. Next up, we have Calrook's team. Calrook, a longtime friend of mine, another streamer, you should follow him on twitch.tv/Calrook. He had the tactic of grabbing all of the gremlin-looking Pokemon. So, here's what he grabbed. Tinkaton, big hammer gremlin, love it. Mega Sableye. Everyone knows Sableye. Hitmontop, a little bit questionable as far as being a gremlin goes. Gengar, the OG gremlin. Delibird, that's just Calrook's favorite Pokemon. Conkeldurr, I suggested this one to Calrook. Conkeldurr is 4'7" and literally a clown. Druddigon, which is the closest you'll get to being a gremlin if you're looking at dragon types, I would say. Berserker, little bearded troll looking cat thing. Morgrem, literal gremlin. Gligar, it kind of looks like a gremlin, I would say. And then Bellsprout is Bellsprout with Calrook's last remaining point. If we were to give this a serious rating, this draft is surprisingly not that bad, actually. So Calrook lacks a psychic type. He also lacks in fire, water, and I'm not going to count Bellsprout as a grass type, even though it is a grass type. I'm not going to count it. He lacks fire, water, grass. He also doesn't seem to have an electric Pokemon, but he has ground and flying. So as far as type cores are concerned, this is not very good. But he does have good hazard game. He's got Spinner, he's got Magic Bounce, he's got another Spinner or a Defogger. He can put up spikes with Delibird as well. He's got, another Defogger that can put up rocks in Gligar. He's got Druddigon for rocks. I think Berserker might get rocks. Don't quote me on that. So he's got good hazard game. But the issue is that, again, I also forgot Conkeldurr is a Defogger. That's important to note. But again, the issue is the lack of type cores and type coverage. But he does have an FDS core in Tinkaton as a fairy or a steel. Usually you don't count both, but if you did, that plus Druddigon is already an FDS core. You could also count Berserker and Morgrem plus Druddigon, but you don't want to do that because these Pokemon aren't very good. But if you counted one or the other, you have Tinkaton, Druddigon, and then one of these two as your FDS core. Honestly, it's not super bad of a draft, but it's also not very good. I can't really say that it's good because of the lack of overall type core coverage, but it's not the worst. I will say it's not the worst. If I have to give this draft a number out of 10, probably give it about a 6. I don't think it's that bad. It's usable. It's definitely usable. That's really all I can say. It's usable. It's not beyond bad. It's also not beyond good either. It's just sort of there, Next up, we have Mr. Titan T, a returning player from the start of last season with the team Blazed Beaks. Alright, so Thundurus T, Mamoswine. So here we already have a flying electric ground core. Very good. Next up, we have Lucario, Primarina, and Xatu. Now, we double up on the flying types here, but Xatu does give you a Defogger. It does give you Magic Bounce. It is quite good. Lucario, it's Lucario, It always seems okay in draft, but it never really stands out too much because of its lack of speed. Honestly, if Lucario were a faster Pokemon, this thing would be fantastic. But it's tragically not that fast. Primarina, love Primarina. I've had Primarina before, love it as a fairy type, love it as a water type. This is fantastic, good job. And then we don't have a dragon in the rest of the draft, which means that we are missing the most important core of Draft League, FDS, Fairy, Dragon, Steel. We have Smeargle for hazards, I guess. You rarely want to use Smeargle for stuff like that. Doublade, I mean, it's kind of okay in this league. I feel like knockoff is very high valued, but not many people actually have knockoff users. So, Doublade is probably a pretty solid pick. Beedrill Mega, strongest U-turn in the game. Honestly, in this format, with its massive attack and its high speed, this thing is a menace, and at 18 points, it's kind of a good pick. Kind of a good pick. And Houndoom for 5. Flashfire, I guess, is pretty good. So, we have our water, fire. We do not have the finished fire, water, grass core. We have the electric flying ground. We don't have fairy, dragon, steel. We just have fairy and steel twice. And we do not have psychic fighting dark, but oh wait, we do. Lucario. I forgot Lucario's part fighting type for a second there. So we do have fighting dark psychic. So solid so far. This is quite a good draft. I would try and fix the fact that you are doubled up on the dark types here. Did I just say dark types? That's the wrong type. That's not the type I meant to talk about. I meant to say steel. I don't know why I said dark. My brain hurts, I guess. I am filming this the first thing waking up in the morning, so maybe I'm a little bit dumb. But overall, solid draft. You have decent hazard game with Xatu, but your rockers... I mean, Mamoswine's a fine rocker. What am I saying? Your rockers are decent. So decent hazards, missing FDS core, no dragon type. That's gonna have to dock you a point or two. So I'm overall gonna give this one about a 7 out of 10. You definitely want a dragon. Dragons in low tiers are very, very good, especially since there's less Pokemon that can stop dragons. So gonna go ahead and give you a 7 out of 10. And I suggest picking up a dragon. Next up is Antkiller, the Tyrant Tantrum. Alright, so here's this team. Tyrantrum, Dragon Rock. Skarmory, Steel, Fairy. First 3 picks, FDS core. Love it. Also 2 hazard setters, and technically a defogger, I think. Next you have Toxtricity, Bronzong, Quag. Quagsire now has Stealth Rocks and Spikes, from what I have learned. Ditto, Zoroark, and Cryogonal. So you have the... Oh, you're missing a fighting type. You almost had the fighting dark psychic steel. Almost. You also have your ground electric flying core. You love that. That's really good. But I do not see a fire type or a grass type. Now, these... Like I'm saying, anything can be lived without, provided you play it properly. However, it's easier if you do have those things. So, a main problem I'm seeing with this draft, and this is probably something that Ant is going to have to live with, is that all of these Pokemon are pretty slow. Your speed is Ditto with Choice Scarf. If you don't have Ditto with Choice Scarf, then you're probably just gonna get outsped by your opponent every single time. And then you're gonna have to rely on Trick Room with Mimikyu to cause problems. And then your opponent taunts your Mimikyu, and you are very sad. So, I suggest picking up a Pokemon with enough speed to at least make your opponent think that you might try and go for something that will outspeed them. Because right now, I look at this draft and I'm like, okay, be prepared to fight Trick Room. You know? That's just me, though. You don't want to rely too hard on one gimmick, as you will just simply lose. And you will lose because it's very easy to prepare for one gimmick if your opponent only has one gimmick. So I definitely recommend trying to even out those speed tiers. Okay, I may have scored Calric's draft a little bit too high, because this one, I would give probably a 6. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Calric, and I'm going to change this to a 5. And then I'm going to give Antkiller a 6 with the draft. It's very unfortunate when you are funneling onto one gimmick, and you just don't want to see that. Alright, next up, you have Plasma, the Big Burners. Kept the logo after I assigned it to him. He says he likes it now, so we're loving that. Love that for him. Alright, so, Big Burners. Round 1, Glastrier. This is how the teams were drafted. Pokemon have since changed, but I wanted to do the review based on how the teams were drafted as, and then upload this video, giving people some time to listen to my suggestions, and then upload change their Pokemon during the grace period, which is currently going on as we speak. So, yeah. So Glastrier, fantastic Pokemon, very bulky, hard to kill under this format. It can be an absolute menace in Trick Room. Honestly, not a bad pick at 18, I don't think. There's not much else to say. Rotom Heat, this gives you a fantastic defogger. Arguably the best one that is legal in this format. I mean, you could say Conkeldurr is legal Cupid. Silvally is legal Cupid. But I think Rotom is more attuned to being a defogger than those other two Pokemon are. So Rotom Heat, fantastic defogger. Florges, epic special defense. Porygon 2, fantastic in this format. I love it. It's so bulky, it's practically unkillable unless your opponent runs knockoff, and then it has a fighting type to support that said knockoff in the back. Silvally, this is Silvally, you can be all types, and at 18 points, those stats are actually quite good for a low tier draft like this. Silvally at 18 points is, it's a good pick. You know, excellent defogger. Noivern, finishing out that FDS core, one piece at a time. You have Florges, Noivern so far. And then finally you finish it with Metagross. Love that. Now, you don't have any of the other cores finished, I will say that. Unless you count Silvally, in which case you have every core finished, because Silvally can be any type. And then you have Abra and Cleffa because you went way too hard on the points early on. Now, I doubt you'll ever bring Abra or Cleffa, so as a result of that, you have drafted 7 Pokemon, essentially, and I have to say that that is not desirable. Since you're so top-heavy, like, don't get me wrong, your top of your draft is so good, but since you're so top-heavy, it kind of balances out, like, your overall score. You know, it reduces your overall score with these last 2 Pokemon. Now your opponent only have to prepare for 7 Pokemon, as opposed to 9. And that's, you know, just not desirable. Like, sure, your 7 Pokemon have fantastic quality, but, like, you know, you prep for things like Porygon and, like, Florges, arguably the same way. Bring a Pokemon with Toxic, knockoff, and then just have something that, you know, walls these two. It's kind of harder to wall Porygon 2 because it has the Bolt Beam coverage as well as the normal moves. But Florges, you know, it only has so many aromatherapies and so many syntheses and so many wishes and so on. So yeah, you kind of prepare for those two the same way. They're both bulky. You deal with bulky Pokemon for the most part the same. Burning Metagross or Glastrier is typically a good way to win. So Plasma is really going to have to find a way to deal with those things all at once. Especially with the weakness to Stealth Rocks this team, because this is weak to Rocks, this is weak to Rocks, and this is weak to Rocks. And your Defoggers, I mean, they're good. Don't get me wrong. The Defoggers definitely make up for the weakness to Rocks. They're fantastic Defoggers. But you need to bring Defog every single week with this team. And that is not desirable. So overall, I'm going to give this draft, also probably a 6. I can't say it's as good as Mr. Titan T's team. I think along the lines of Ant Killer's team, just because your top is so heavy. And again, you know, you don't want to have your opponent have easy prep. And that's the problem with this team. Your opponent's prep is going to be kind of easy. So I suggest making some changes involving, like, your type coverage. Like, you could probably, you know, try your best to get an actual Pokemon for one of these 2 1s instead of having 2 1s there. And yeah, that'll be it. Next up, we have Kiwi, my moderator. Alright, so Kiwi picked Chandelure, Sylveon, Starmie, Orthworm, which is a new Pokemon, Roserade, Flygon, Altaria, Zebstrika, and Absol Mega. Now, honestly, these aren't bad. These aren't bad. You have Fire, Water, Grass. You have Fire, Water, Grass. You have Fairy, Steel, and Dragon. And you also have Flying. Why did I click Orthworm? It's a Steel type. Flying, Ground, Electric. Now, honestly, it's a pretty good draft. You know, you have solid bulk with Sylveon, and you have solid bulk with Orthworm. You also have a decent special defensive Pokemon in Roserade. And you have Absol Mega, Chandelure, and Starmie, arguably, for offensive stuff. You have good rocks in Flygon. I think Flygon gets Defog. Also, don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure. I know Altaria does. So you've got good hazard game. You've got good cores. Honestly, this draft isn't bad. Honestly, not. That being said, your speed tiers are a little wonky. I'm not exactly sure how fast Zebstrika is, but I think Absol Mega is the fastest Pokemon on this team at 115. That's not too hard to outspeed, but it is fast enough to get the job done in a lower tier draft. This team is very good offensively, I will say. Offensive powerhouse, hits pretty darn hard. You know, another fantastic offensive Pokemon. Technician Roserade is terrifying as well. Flygon, fantastic offensive Pokemon with its overall type coverage and decent stats. And then, of course, the Absol Mega in the back. Fantastic offense. Defense, you have, you know, Orthworm, Starmie, Roserade. You did pretty good, Kiwi. I'm not even gonna lie. Kiwi did pretty good. So, what is there to say, really? You're missing a fighting type. That is basically it. You're missing a fighting type, and you're gonna want a more reliable Defogger, because you don't really want to run Defog on these 2 Pokemon. Beyond that, I think you've done pretty well. I think this is maybe slightly better than Kitsune's. They're about the same, so I will give this an 8. This is a good draft. Next up, we have my team. Now, I will make this abundantly clear right now, so no one asks. I memed this draft. This team, the Down Baddies, is a draft based on Pokemon who have a lot of Rule 34 entries of them. That being said, I took this list of Pokemon, and I tried my best to make a working draft that actually could function. And this is what I came up with. Vaporeon, Goodra, Gardevoir, Umbreon, Blaziken, Mawile, Nihilego, Frostless, and Lilligant. Okay, so, first major problem. Blaziken is my defogger. I only have the one defogger, and you know what? It's not good. It's not good. You don't want to have Blaziken as your defogger. Next up, my Rocks game is not fantastic, but I do have a finished Fairy Dragon Steel core. I do have a Fire Water Grass core. I have a Ghost type, and I have foregone the entire idea of a Ground Electric Flying core. So we don't have any of those. Now, why did I do that? Because, you know, there's just not much as far as, sauce on the internet for those Pokemon. And, I just wanted to do the best I could. So this is what I ended up with, and, I left myself 12 extra points so I could do a bunch of stuff in the grace period to actually fix this draft. Overall, this draft is atrocious. I have Nihilego as Rocks. You never want to bring Mawile, even though you can. You almost never do. And beyond that, the draft is, like, okay. Like, you know, I've got Spikes, I've got Sleep plus Quiver Dance, I guess. Blaziken's okay. It does not have Speed Boost in this league. It's a low-tier draft league. Speed Boost would be too powerful. Umbreon. You know, I've got a lot of defensive stuff. I can say that proudly. You know, I'm very bulky. But the offense, where is it? Gardevoir? Okay, sure. Yeah, no, it's not a good draft. Nihilego, I mean, technically, yes, Nihilego could be offensive, but, like, it's just not a good draft, and you should never draft based off of Rule 34. I do think that this is the worst draft so far, except for maybe Calrooks, so I'm going to also give this draft about a 5. The speed tiers are, you know, a consistent middle of the pack speed, and, you know, there's no Pokemon that is exemplary in this draft. So, and I'm entirely missing one of the cores. Like, this isn't good. So I'm gonna give this one about a 5, and I definitely have already made a bunch of changes as far as my Pokemon are concerned. I don't need to give myself advice, but if you were to draft something like this, I would definitely suggest trying to finish out that last core, moving around things, maybe forgoing a different core, maybe even giving up on a defogger and getting something, you know, more reliable, because whew, it's a bad day when Blaziken's the glue holding your team together. I will say that. Okay, finally, we have Timberwolfie's team. We have the Canuckstan Credillies. This is for the first row, I should say. There's a second row. Alright, so let's get through this. So, Como, Tangrowth, Screamtail, Empoleon, Galvantula, Sceptile Mega, Dugtrio, Lola, Entei, and Murkrow. So, here's what we have. We have Water, Grass, Fire. We have Dragon, Fairy, Steel. You also have Dragon Grass, which is excessive. You also have Ground Ground Steel, which is also not necessary. And I think, I guess Murkrow counts. You have Murkrow, so Flying, Ground, and Electric. Now, you have finished out all your cores. Fantastic. You're missing a Ghost. You want a Ghost. You typically want a Ghost in draft. It's good to have a spin blocker, as well as just Ghost is a good offensive typing as well. So you're going to want a Ghost. Beyond that, you have fantastic Pokemon. For Stealth Rock, you have a good Defogger and Empoleon. I do like Empoleon for Defog. You have funny prankster shenanigans with Murkrow. Your Mega is questionable. I would say that this is probably better off being a different Mega. But beyond that, no major complaints. Honestly, this draft is kinda good. You have Regenerator with Tangrowth, as well as Knockoff, as well as other good things that Tangrowth can do. You have Screamtail, which is a nightmare to kill, but it doesn't really put anything out offensively, so we're gonna see how it does. Galvantula for webs and funny thunder tactics. Those are cool, I guess. Alola's Doug Trio is there, and Entei is a fantastic hard-hitting Pokemon with Sacred Fire. We love Sacred Fire. 50% chance to burn is awesome. So overall, this draft kind of good. I won't. I don't think it's quite as good as something like Kitsune's draft. Just because Kitsune has such a screaming amount of offense, and the offense on this draft is kind of passive. Entei hits hard. Sceptile Mega hits hard, but Como without the Omni boosting moves is not great. That being said, it does get Clangorous Soul in this league, which is why it is 20 points. So it's going to be a very positional battle against this team, and ideally you have something to defeat the Como. As for how I feel about this draft, it's good, but it's not amazing. You know, it's missing a couple of things that would put it into the amazing tier. It is very good. I will go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10. It is good, but it's not quite there, you know? Next draft, the champion from Season 1, Golden City Gardevoirs. We have the round 1 pick of Manaphy with Tail Glow legal. I have no idea how Tail Glow Manaphy fell all the way to number 8 in the draft, but it did. Well, actually, I think this is number 9 in the draft now that I think about it. Either way, Tail Glow Manaphy, Nidoqueen, Lokix, Zarina, Audino Mega, Palmet, Duraludon, Hoopa, Volibee, and Tandemaus. So, we have foregone the ideas of defense beyond Audino Mega. Because, as far as defenses are concerned, your bulkiest Pokemon after Audino Mega is Eviolite Volibee, or Manaphy itself. So, this is that's a rough one. That is definitely a rough one. Let's look at the cores at least. Maybe you have some type cores. You've got Dragon Steel, nice, and Fairy, okay. You have an FDS core, technically. You have water, you have grass, and you don't have a fire type. Very cool. You have a ghost, you have a psychic, you have a dark, and you have a lack of fighting types. Love it. You also have the second dark with Lokix. I mean... Oh, wait, no, Palmet's fighting. I forgot. For a second, I thought Palmet was pure electric. I have that problem sometimes with the new Pokemon. No, Palmet is electric fighting. My bad. So you do have the fighting core. Honestly, it's not too bad. Where's your Stealth Rocks? Nidoqueen? Okay. Nidoqueen. You have Zarina for Rapid Spin. You have Volibee for Defog. So I think that's acceptable, I guess. It's not quite good enough, but it's acceptable. You have a lot of imbalance on this team, I will say that. You don't really have enough defense to pivot around to get Manaphy in safely. Luckily, Manaphy is bulky enough by itself to where it probably won't matter too much in this league, but yeah. Something to consider. How do I feel about this draft overall? It's not quite as good as Timba's. I will go ahead and give it a 7 out of 10. I don't think I need to give advice to the owner of this draft. The owner of this draft more than likely knows better what to do with it than I do. Because, well, he's the one who drafted it. Next up, we have the butt of the Draft League's joke, The Daylight Wonders by Bento Box. Now, why is Bento Box the butt of the Draft League's joke? Well, that's because Bento historically gets kind of memed on because he talks trash and then he gets destroyed. Kind of like Yamcha or Krillin, maybe, from Dragon Ball. I feel like that's probably the best explanation for Bento's character in the Draft League. So, Bento has been going on and on about how broken Aggron Mega is, and I have used the Pokemon in Draft before. I promised him it's not actually that good. So we have Aggron Mega, Talonflame, Zygarde 10, Alakazam, Swampert Comfey, Inteleon, Golurk, and Oricorio. Now, here's the thing with Bento. Bento had all 3 of these Pokemon last season, and 2 of them were for my suggestion. So, yeah. Let's see here. So we have, Fairy Dragon Steel with Zygarde, Aggron, and Comfey. We have, Fire, Water, and no Grass type. Grass is quite important in a low-tier draft league like this, so no Grass type is unfortunate. You also have double Water with Swampert and Inteleon. I don't think that's a suggestible one. You're missing a Dark type and a Fighting type for your Alakazam's core. And you have Ghost with Golurk, and you have Oricorio for, I guess, your Flying Electric ground core. Your hazards are always going to be coming from your Aggron. You have no other rocker except for Golurk, which I guess is usable because Bento loves the Pokemon so much. Golurk is very fragile, so it's basically just a suicide lead where you lead it with a Focus Sash, you get up rocks, and then you wait for your Golurk to die while you spam attacks. It's not a fantastic situation as far as hazards are concerned. Also, your Defogger is going to be Comfey, because you don't want to have Boots Talonflame be your Defogger, because if you get knocked off and then something forces you out, your Talonflame is essentially dead, and you only got to defog once. Alakazam's good. Alakazam is going to be the main source of this team's offense as is. Inteleon's okay, I guess. Alakazam much better. And Zygarde 10 is also acceptable offensively. In addition to that, you have the Aggron Mega for your defense, and nothing is there especially defensively. So you're pretty hard committed to Aggron Mega being your pivot, and this Pokemon has no recovery, so you do not want it to get chipped down at all. You are going to struggle when your opponent switches Pokemon. And that is a mechanic of the game. So overall, since you only have the one defensive Pokemon and it has no recovery, you're gonna lose the second you lose momentum. And the second this thing dies and your opponent has a Pokemon that's faster than your Alakazam, you lose the battle. So, a lot of your matches are going to be figuring out how to beat that. Honestly, I can't say that this draft is amazing. I also can't say it's the worst draft I've ever seen. That one goes to a draft that we will cover later. But this one is not desirable. So, I'm going to go ahead and give this draft a 6. Bento asked me to rate their draft last night, and I gave them a 3. I didn't say out of what number. But now, Bento should be able to figure out what the number was. This draft gets a 6. I do recommend getting some more bulk to actually help out your Aggron Mega, and maybe a Pokemon with Wish as well, to heal it up that way. Or a reliable Wish user, I should say. Alright, next up we have Zexalaxin. New to the league. I'm not sure how experienced Zexal is with draft, but I've got to say, this draft is actually quite good. So, let's get into it. Infernape. Fantastic Pokemon. Best lead Pokemon in this draft, if you ask me. It's fantastic. It's great. You know, it's got all the coverage. It can be physical. It can be special. It's got Stealth Rocks. It's got Taunt. What more can be said? It's a fantastic Pokemon. Superior, team mascot, also has Contrary at 13 points. I may have that may have been an oversight by me. I won't lie. But here we are. Superior at 13. Staraptor. I love Staraptor. I don't think Staraptor gets enough usage, and it always gets, you know, eternally banned to borderline tiers, and I wish that Staraptor just had a tier to call its own. So 15 Staraptor pick, pretty good. I'm looking forward to seeing what it does. Melodic, fantastic, bulky Pokemon. Snorlax, Espeon for Magic Bounce. Whimsicott, Ninjask, and Pikachu. So, we have no fairy beyond Whimsicott. And I hardly call Whimsicott a fairy. I call it more of a grass type. We have no steel. And we have no dragon. So we're missing the most important core. Fairy, Dragon, Steel. We're off to a not great start. We do have Fire, Water, Grass, Infernape, Superior, Melodic, which is a premium Fire, Water, Grass core in a league like this. Infernape with the Fighting type, Espeon with the Psychic, and where is your Dark type? There is none. You want to have one of those, and you're also going to want a Ghost. So, main problem is that a lot of these Pokemon are single-type Pokemon. You have Superior, Melodic, Snorlax, Espeon, and Pikachu. So, since you have so many single-type Pokemon, as a result, you end up with a lot of cores missing. And also, your Rock Setter, even though it is Infernape, which is a fantastic Rock Setter, you only have Infernape to set up rocks. So, Infernape is, if you're going to be trying to go for a hazard-based game, is gonna be there every time. It's gonna be your rock lead, and that's basically all you've got. Espeon's gonna have to come around with Magic Bounce a lot. I mean, sure, you have fantastic Defogger Superior. You have Staraptor, which is also an acceptable Defogger, but you usually want to run Staraptor for its offensive prowess. Whimsicott also gets Defog, I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. You have no ground type for your electric ground flying core. You do have a flying type, but you're also, well, I guess you have Pikachu. I guess yeah, Pikachu's countable for an electric core, sure. So, overall, this draft isn't stellar. It's not stellar, but it's pretty good if this is your first draft. If this is the first time you've ever drafted, fantastic. If this is, if this is if this is not your first time drafting, it's not quite desirable. If you actually are looking for a draft that looks like someone knows what they're doing. So I'm going to have to give this a 6 as a serious answer, but if this is your first ever draft, you've done fantastically. Good job. Next up, we have Team Tropic Storm. Now, these next two teams, I'm not going to sugarcoat. I think these are the bottom two teams of the league. They decided to go for weather, even after I heavily nerfed weather by banning all of the fully evolved weather setters and making the babies cost way too many points. People still went for weather. So, here we go. Team Tropic Storm, the Sun team. We have Darmanitan, Mandibuzz, Houndoom, Mega, Gastrodon, Jellicent, Appleton, Cradilly, Vulpix, Victreebel, and Aerodactyl. Now, let me point out some problems. 1, 2, 3 fire types. 1, 2, 3 grass types. 1, 2 dark types. 1, 2 water types. 1, 2 flying types. So, you're going to need to shift around a lot of Pokemon if you're actually going to want to run this as a viable team. Right now you have 2 rockers in Gastrodon and Cradilly. Yes, Gastrodon did in fact get Stealth Rock in Generation of 9. You also have Aerodactyl. I forgot Aerodactyl. My bad. So you have 3 rockers. You have Mandibuzz for Defog. Aerodactyl, I think, also gets Defog. Don't quote me on that one. So you have a reliable Defogger in Mandibuzz, and then the rest of your team is just a Sun-based hyper offense. Now, here's the problem with that. None of these Pokemon are particularly fast, except for Victreebel with Chlorophyll. Now, don't get me wrong, Houndoom Mega is very, very fast, but you're going to get outsped by Pokemon with Choice Scarf. In addition to this, your team is excessively weak to Stealth Rock. Like, it's weak to rocks, weak to rocks, weak to rocks. You know, weak to rocks, and this is your sun setter, so, you know, since you're using a baby Pokemon, you're probably going to want to use Eviolite so it can survive a hit, and then maybe you can get up Sun again later in the battle, but more often than not, you're just not going to. And then also weak to rocks. So Stealth Rocks is going to shred this team. Also, beyond Mandibuzz and Aerodactyl, there is one ground resist, and its name is Appletun. And Appletun is... Okay, so Hidden Power is legal in this league, and I don't like Pokemon that have '4 weaknesses in leagues like this. But that's just me personally. So, the issues here are the overlapping types. If you want this draft to actually have a chance, I don't think you can bring a team that is primarily 3 types and then expect to win, because people can just look at that and be like, okay, I need this Pokemon to have this move, and this move to hit every Pokemon on their team for super effective damage. Yeah, no, that's not desirable. You want to have diversity, and that's what this team is lacking. Is this the worst team in the draft? No. I do think that there is one that stands out as worse, but this one is definitely not what you're looking for. You definitely want to move around your types a lot. You have 2 Pokemon that accomplish the same thing in Gastrodon and Jellicent. They give you immunity to water to protect your fire Pokemon in the sun. But that being said, like, you don't really need both of them for obvious reasons. Like, you don't need to have 2 Pokemon that accomplish the same thing, especially in a draft like this. And things need to be moved around a lot. I would probably like, these 2 fire types are fine with the Sun Setter, I guess. You can double up on fire, but you do not want 3 grass types in the sun. You don't want 3 grass types in the sun. Even if 2 of them take neutral damage from fire, you still don't want... You want more fire resists. You're also completely missing your Fairy Dragon Steel Core. Except for Appletun, which is a dragon for some reason. It's... yeah, and like I said, your hazards are good at... You're good at setting them. Your removal of hazards is Mandibuzz, and if you don't remove them, you're gonna suffer. So, gotta give this draft a 5. Just because of the sheer amount of overlapping typing, and I hope to see some movement to make things a little bit more balanced, and hopefully give you, well, it would give you a lot better of a chance. That being said, I think it is time to move on to the second to final draft, the worst of the league. Juveniles Freeham 2. Now, this draft started off fine, I would say. You know, Cobalion and Incineroar, okay, we're off to a good start. We have Fighting Dark, and we have a Fire, and we have a Steel. We have a Water type, followed up with Tatsugiri. We have Nidoking, okay, that's fine. And then we have Ice type, Ice type, Ice type, Ice type, Ice type, Ice type. I don't think I need to explain why that's not desirable, so I'm going to just, I'm just going to say, what if your opponent knocks out your one weather setter that is named Snover, and then puts up a different weather? What would you do? Beyond that, you have 0 defoggers, 2 rock setters, and you... Okay, so you have 0 defoggers on a team with 7 Pokemon that are weak to rock. Just think about that for a sec. Unless Tatsugiri is a defogger that I didn't know about. 0 defoggers on a team that has 7 Pokemon that are weak to rock. Even with Snowscape buffing your defense, that's not good. That's not even acceptable, I wouldn't say. So Yeah, no, this is the worst draft of the league. I can't. I was gonna try and find redeeming things like, oh yeah, you have the double Arcto combo in the snow, but beyond that, you don't need Mega Glalie, you don't need Jinx, you don't need Walrein. You know, you have the Hail offense. Keep that as a core. Use the rest of your draft to make something balanced, and don't just all in on ice types. That's not something I would ever recommend. Um, this is the worst draft of the league, and I am gonna go ahead and give this a 4. It's not what you want. It's just not. Like, this team has to use heavy duty boots as its item or lose instantly. And when you're forced, when your own draft has forced you to do something, that's how you know it is bad. And this is a shining example of that. And finally, we have Professor Wisteria, who oh, by the way, go ahead, follow Wisty on Twitch. Hashtag, not sponsored, I guess. Twitch.tv/ I think it is Professor Wisteria or Prof Wisteria. I'm not entirely sure which one anymore. It's been a couple of months since I have seen Wisty's Twitch channel. I just haven't been watching Twitch. So, yeah, it's one of the two. Anyway, Wisty's team, the Inappropriate Grimers. Here we go. This team is awesome. I love it. So we have Terrakion, fantastic Pokemon. Very hard to kill in this format, too. Or, not hard to kill, but, like, hard to stop from destroying your whole team in this format. It's probably one of the best breakers in the league. Manectric Mega, Intimidate, huge special attack, great speed, Volt Switch, love it. Crocodile, I love Crocodile as a Pokemon. I love Ground Dark, Stab Knockoff, Stab Earthquake. My favorite. Klefki. Klefki is a great Pokemon. Swagger is legal, and, you know, you can get up spikes, you can get up screens, you can Thunder Wave things. Fantastic utility Pokemon with Prankster, and it is a Fairy and a Steel type. Moltres, the regular form, heavy duty boots, decent defogger, very bulky, Flame Body is nice. Fire and Hurricane moves are very good too. Fortress for more hazards. Aggron for, I'm guessing, another Rocks user. Clefairy is a fairy. It's got Eviolite. Clefairy's not good. There's not really much to say about it. And Scyther, which does fantastic offensively in a league like this, with Swords Dance and Technician Dual Wing Beat, because cut moves are allowed. So, major things that Wisty's missing. Dragon type. There is no dragon on this team. You do have your Fairy Dragon, or you do have your Fairy Dragon Steel Core without the dragon. It's okay. Again, that is survivable. A lot of the dragons were removed by banning the higher tier Pokemon. But, you know, if you could get a dragon on there, it'll be great. You also have fantastic offense. You have so much offense. This is a fantastic offensive team. You're lacking in the special defense department, I will say. You're probably going to have a lot of struggles with, like, a Scarfed Chandelure, for example. You're going to have to Scarf your own Pokemon to counter that. But, like, I love the amount of offense. I love the hazards with Terrakion and Crocodile. I love Moltres as a defogger. Fortress can Rapid Spin. Scyther can also run Boots Defog if you are really feeling shisty with it, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, if you could just pivot around enough with Mega Manectric, you can eventually just break through any team with this, I would say. This is a great draft. That being said, it is lacking in, you know, the dragon type department. You are also missing a water type, which is not the best. But you do have the flying electric ground core, which is quite good as well. You don't have a psychic type for the fighting psychic dark core, but beyond that, there's no major complaints. You also don't have a ghost, but that's not really that big of a deal. So I've got to say, overall, I wouldn't. I don't think this is the best overall draft, but it's up there for sure. You definitely did a lot better this season with your draft than last season, where you just drafted Stall, because Stall is very easy to beat once you know how to prep for it. And yeah, this draft is a lot more interesting, and I'm excited to see what you do with it, Wisty. Um, my recommendations are, try and fill out the things that I pointed out to you, and we'll see what you can accomplish using that information. Overall, I'm going to give this draft another 8 out of 10. I don't know if I can say it's the best, but it is definitely up there with the other good ones. And that is going to conclude the Cupid Draft League recap. And now, I need to go get ready for work. So I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you probably tonight on stream. Today is January 30th, so if you guys are watching this on the day it was uploaded, then I will probably be live tonight after work. I will see you all later. Peace out.